All right. Well, this is a really excellent crowd, it's pretty exciting, and I'm excited to talk about PR strategy and content strategy. I think. Sorry, I don't want to mess anything up here. So it's an interesting experience for me because I've spent a lot of time pitching Compstak, not a lot of time talking about content strategy. So I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert in content strategy. What I'm going to do is tell you about what's worked for Compstak, why I think it's worked, and try to hopefully give you some tidbits that could help in your businesses. What I'm going to do is start off by showing you a quick video that explains what we do.
You're a commercial real estate broker. Your client is looking for a 20,000 square foot office downtown. So you scour the market and finally find the perfect space. But wait, how much are the other tenants paying? You check your records for info about other leases in the building. These are called comps. They include all the relevant deal information, like tenant name, address, rent, and square footage. But all of your comps are outdated. So you try to trade with your broker friends. And they have comps, but not the ones you need. What now? You try Compstak. Simply share your comps with us in exchange for points. Then search the comp you need, filter the results however you'd like, and that's it. At Compstak, we gather our data from many real estate professionals, like brokers, appraisers, and researchers. Then our whiz-bang technology, combined with analyst reviews of every comp, ensures data integrity and quality. And thanks to our point system, you don't even need a bank account. Using all that data, we build a complete and reliable picture of the marketplace, compiling valuable information for investors, owners, brokers, appraisers, and researchers. Compstak. Share the comps you have to find the comps you need.
So hopefully you guys have some sense of what a comp is. I'd say maybe 50% of you do at this point. And that's kind of the challenge that we have to deal with at Compstak, and thinking about the fact that, yeah, our niche audience, they really know what a comp is and they get excited about it. But outside of that, other people don't. And do we even care about those people who don't know what a comp is? Because we're not really selling to them. So that kind of gets to the first of the lessons learned, and that's promoting ourselves. So when we were getting started, we thought, we really need to stay focused. There were two of us, my co-founder Vadim and I, and we're thinking about how can we grow this business. And every day, should we do this or shouldn't we do this? Is this aligned with our business strategy, and are we wasting time? And so we had an opportunity a little bit over a year ago to pitch or demo at the New York Tech Meetup. And for any of you who know about the New York Tech Meetup, it's a big organization. There's like 30,000 members, and they put on an event every month where there are demos, and within 5 minutes, the tickets sell out for like 1,000 seats. And we had an opportunity to pitch ourselves, and my co-founder Vadim, who's probably the more practical or focused of the two of us, says to me, this is not for us. People who come to the New York Tech Meetup, they want to hear about consumer businesses. They want to hear about sexy things. We're not sexy. This isn't for us. And I said, you know what? I don't know, but who knows who's going to be there? And so we showed up. And when we got there, there were actually three things that we got out of it. The first one, and the reason why I showed you that video, is we met a guy named David Amichai at the event. And he said, I do videos, and I'm a creative guy, and he seemed interesting, and I liked his business card, and I reached out to him, and he ended up creating that video for us for the intro. That video cost us, you guys could guess, it was $3,000. Typically, those kind of videos cost $20,000 plus if you go through one of these fancy companies that specializes in them. This guy didn't specialize in it, but he was a really creative guy, and we hired him to do it. The second thing that came out of that article was there was a guy there from Forbes, and we got to talk to him, and he featured us in an article afterwards about the people who demoed at the event. And the third thing that came out of that event was there was a guy who had actually come in from California from TechCrunch, and got to talk to him, and he said, when you guys have something big to announce, let me know. Turns out, we raised a seed round several months later. I called him up. I said, remember we met at the New York Tech Meetup, and now I've got something to announce. We closed our seed round, and we got into 500 startups, and we got an article in TechCrunch. So here's an example. Maybe you think you need to stay focused, but the truth of the matter is sometimes you just need to show up. You need to seek opportunities. I'm going to give you one more example of that, and that was a commercial real estate broker who reached out to us and was interested in Compstak and said, hey, what you're doing is cool. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. And We're like, this guy's from a small shop. Who knows that he's going to be useful to us, whatever, but went and met with him. He was a big supporter of us. He introduced us to the editor of the real estate section of the Wall Street Journal. Turns out that the Wall Street Journal covered us and wrote about our company. But then they said, you know what, you guys have really interesting data that we could use when we're writing about commercial real estate. And so we started feeding them data. They started reaching out to us. We got our article in the Wall Street Journal. That's not the first one. The first one was, I don't know, 14 months ago, I think. In that time, we've now been in the Wall Street Journal 13 times since then. So it was certainly an opportunity that we took. And just to show you an example, I mean, in case you're wondering if it actually matters, in the month of September of 2013, for instance, we got 3 articles in the Wall Street Journal, actually 2012 rather. We got 3 articles in the Wall Street Journal, and then we had a big uptick in people who requested access to Compstak. So the next thing I want to tell you, next lesson is around PR and content strategy, which of course is the talk. And when we were thinking about our strategy, we thought, okay, we are either the news of the article, we're going to tell people how great we are and hope that people write about our wonderful business, or we're going to create content for them that they're going to publish. And yeah, we do those things, but actually what we found is that the truth of the matter is where we're in the press the most is when we're enhancing the news. So when we're giving just tidbits of information, data that's really interesting to a reporter that helps them do their job better. This is just an example of one article where, you know, the Wall Street Journal wanted to write about Microsoft, and we gave them information on the rent Microsoft was paying and the details of a deal, and they published it. So think about what kind of data you have and how can you help a reporter do their job a little better without saying, talk about my amazing startup, or here's a story that I've decided is good for you. These are some of the publications that have covered us in the past year. A lot of them are, you know, commercial real estate related publications, and some are, you know, varied tech, whatever, business. And in July, there's actually 14 on here, but there were actually 15 press hits for Compstak in the month of July. And you'll notice here, if you look at the list, I mean, you probably don't know most of these publications. The Real Deal is a real estate publication in New York. The Commercial Observer is as well. And then there's the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, whatever. This month, in the month of August, it's now August 9th, we've already had 7 press hits for the month of August. So, lesson around content. We thought that, you know, our data is kind of boring. And is it really content in and of itself? And it really isn't content in and of itself. So we figured that we had to plant ideas and create stories with our data. So one thing that we do is we put out a quarterly market report on what's going on in the commercial real estate market. And that's great, except if you give a quarterly report to a reporter, I'm sure they get a lot of reports from a lot of different people. They may not do anything with it. So what we do is when we send that on, I mean, it maybe seems like common sense, but we send on an email with it, and we said, here's our quarterly report. By the way, here are 2 interesting trends that emerge from this report. And believe it or not, you open up the paper the next day, and they write the article about our quarterly report, and guess what 2 stories they talk about? The 2 stories in our email. So you got to make it really easy, you know, for the papers to understand what is the story. Give them the story, and it makes their lives easier, and it gives them something interesting. Another example here where we provided some content, we decided to come up with an index of what's going on in the commercial real estate market. And so in this case, we created this index tracking the entire market. We sent it to a publication, and this was it. And I'm going to show you here, this is what they published. You'll notice some huge differences here. Primarily that they changed the color from blue to yellow. That's it. that text, we gave them all of that. It is verbatim what we sent them. Make their lives very easy, give them what they need, and then they gave us a whole page. It looks like a freaking advertisement. We didn't pay a cent for it. If there's one thing that I think you could take away from this that maybe is different from what most companies would say, comes around who does PR for Compstak. I think most people will tell you that you should control your PR message. You should hire a PR firm. You should have a PR person internally who's responsible for talking to the press. That's not what we do. What we do is have everyone do PR. every single person on our team is empowered to talk to the press. And not only are they empowered to, they do talk to the press. I'd say on a regular basis, there are 6 people regularly interacting with the press. And absolutely, there's risk that comes along with this. Somebody could say something dumb. It can fly in your face. That's the reality. The other reality is that we were in the press 15 times last month. I'm going to take that. I'm open to that risk. Because the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of different ways you can use it. And if you encourage your team to reach out to the press, it gives them opportunities to be in the press. In fact, a large number of people on our team have been quoted. And so when they're thinking, oh, this is an opportunity for me to get in the press, they're always looking at an opportunity seeking when it comes to the data they work with. And so on our team, I do it every day. Our research team does it with the data that they're looking at and thinks about ways that the press could be interested. Our expansion team does it to talk about what's going on when we hit a new market and to reach out to the publications in those markets and tell them what we're doing and get them excited. Our community managers do it to talk about what's going on in a market that we're live in. And our marketing team, obviously, gets involved in PR. I don't have our development team and sales team checked off here. They could do it, but there's not a huge need for them to. So not everybody all the time, but certainly we try to involve as many people as we can. And around getting PR, I think everybody tells you, well, you need to build relationships with reporters because that's how you're going to do it. And absolutely, you need to build relationships with reporters. What we learn, though, is that only gets you so far. Better than forming relationships with reporters is being top of mind. Because just because a reporter knows you and they like you doesn't mean that they're thinking about you when they wake up in the morning. But you know what? You're probably thinking about how you can get press when you wake up in the morning. So here's an example of one way to be top of mind. It's an email that I wrote about a month ago to every commercial real estate reporter at the Commercial Observer, a commercial real estate publication in New York. They hadn't really been writing about us or using our data all that much. And so I went through every article they wrote in the past month before, and I looked up a list of commercial lease deals that they had done, that they had written about. And then I cross-referenced that list with the deals that we had in our system. And I put together this long list here, and I said, here is every single deal that you've written about that we had data for that would have made your story more interesting. And didn't say it in a mean way, just said, hey, wanted to give you a heads up that we have complete comps for the deals you're writing about. Take a look. Let me know if we can be helpful. That was it. This week, that publication has used our data in 3 different articles. Finally, working with reporters. So we thought that we need to be responsive to reporters. The truth is, you need to be really, really responsive. When a reporter calls you, particularly if it's the first time they've called you, there's a high likelihood that they've called or emailed 5 other people at the same exact time. They've got a deadline of sometime that afternoon, and whoever gets back to them first is going to get in the article. So you should be the one to get back to them first. It's really not all that complicated. But this goes back to what I was saying before around everyone doing PR. If some guy on the dev team gets the call from that reporter, and he needs to call the marketing person who's out on a meeting and wait for them to get back so that they can then be on a call with the reporter, and it gets so complicated that by the time you get back to them, it's a day later, and you know what? They've already talked to somebody, and the article's in the paper already. So be very responsive. Don't wait for crafting the perfect message. Just call them up and talk to them. And if you build a relationship, they're not going to screw you. So next topic is press mentions. And I think for a lot of early stage startups, all you're thinking about is we want big press mentions. We want to be in the New York Times, and we want to be in TechCrunch because we're a tech startup, and that's really exciting. And I love to read TechCrunch. We've been in TechCrunch, and I can tell you we get more hits on our website when we're in TechCrunch than anything else. But you know what? We don't give a shit. The TechCrunch hits do nothing for us. We get thousands of people on our site, but none of them care about commercial real estate. They just clicked on a link from TechCrunch and thought that looked interesting. I mean, that's fun for us. It's nice for us to build our cachet in tech, but it's much more important for us to have our customers know about us. And so the next lesson is target beats reach. This is just a search for Compstak from The Real Deal. At the time that I had sent in these slides, you'll see I sent them in on July 31st, and there was a press mention on July 31st, July 30th, and July 29th, all with our data. And these are the people, these are our customers who are reading this publication every single day. These are the people who really matter. And it doesn't always mean, by the way, that you're going to get a sale out of these. Or that you're even going to get a user out of these. I'd say more often than not, that isn't the case for us. But the biggest thing we get out of it is, I go to a meeting to pitch a major landlord about Compstak, somebody who otherwise would not care about a small tech startup. And they say, oh yeah, I know your name. I just read an article with your data in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Oh, okay, now you've got all this credibility that you probably don't deserve. Or maybe you do, who knows? So when you're thinking about who to target and what to do, it's not super complicated. Look at what publications your customers read, but then go a little further and look at what reporters specifically cover the kind of thing that you cover. Then look at who's covered your competitors. That's something we did a lot early on when no one had heard of us. We said, well, who's written about our competitors or other people in the commercial real estate space? If they're excited about new companies or are willing to write about them, maybe they'll write about us. Next thing are, what events do our customers attend? Try to go to as many of those as we can. But when we go to those, we actually have never sponsored an event that we haven't spoken at. Just try to get to those events early before they pick the speakers and reach out to the people and say, hey, I'd like to come speak about the future of technology in XYZ industry. And there's a decent chance that they'll bring you on. And you know what else you can do, and we've done this many times, is we said, you know what, we're friends with everybody else who's at the forefront of technology in our industry. We can invite them and we can create a panel for you. It's the same thing. It goes back to making life easy for these guys and getting in front of your audience. And being on a panel or speaking at an event in your industry is going to be worth a lot more than whatever that sponsorship is. So another thing on sort of things that maybe you might think about is name dropping your customers or name dropping your users or your members. And a lot of people tell you, oh, be careful, you don't want to piss off your customers or your users or get them upset by using their name everywhere. We kind of have learned that asking forgiveness tends to work. So here's an example, and actually, as it turns out, I didn't even know about this email going out until I got a call. So this email was when we were promoting our entrance into a new market, and we don't sign up brokerage firms as customers. We sign up individual brokers from those firms to use us. And so we said, hey, here's some big name brokerage firms that have members using Compstak. The way we positioned this slide was that one of these major firms got upset and reached out to us to say, hey, why is our logo on there? The truth of this story is that actually 3 of the largest real estate firms in the country got upset. And we got calls from the national head of research of each one of those major firms. And then I got meetings with each one of them. And so now I'm in conversations with the largest real estate firms in the world, talking to them about how they can use Compstak. And I never would have gotten that had we not pissed them off a little bit. So, I would say, just get yourself out there, do what you need to do. You never know what can come of it. I think it goes back to what I said before. Just try it, do it. You're a startup. If you're in a position where you should be taking risks. This is the advantage that you have that the big companies don't. So you might as well do it. You don't really have all that much to lose. The likelihood is you'll fail anyway. These are the lessons again. Always show up. Enhance the news. Plant ideas for stories, not just the story itself. Let everybody in your firm do PR. Be top of mind to your users, top of mind to reporters, and be really, really responsive. Target beats reach, and ask forgiveness later. So, if you have any questions for me or want to talk, you can email me. But if anybody has questions now and I have time, I'll take them. One question. Somebody.
One awesome question. We're stunned by the amazing relevance of your talk. Go ahead.
So how much time do you guys spend on PR? Like you said, everyone is responsible for it. So is it a requirement, like an hour a week people have to?
There's no particular requirement. I'd say on the whole, we probably do spend a lot of time. When we picked out, for instance, like when we hired people for our research team, we didn't just hire people who could analyze data and load data into our database. We thought about people who could actually create interesting insights into it. We've always really thought about the fact that using data and content is part of our strategy as a company to build our brand. So we spend a lot of time, in building those relationships and doing it, but we don't have to carve out time because we're just constantly having these ongoing. Now it's just kind of like the reporters are constantly coming to us. Whenever we think of something, we just do it. It becomes second nature. But I'd say you have to be really intentional about it. I think that everything I've said here assumes that you're really intentional with your strategy. If you're not going to be intentional about it, then maybe you should hire a PR firm or have a PR person. But if you can get your team to be intentional, then you can do it. And like I said, if you give your employees an opportunity to be quoted in the press on a regular basis, they're going to want to be intentional about it. Cool. Thanks a lot.